Have you ever noticed that some people in their late 70s or even their 80s seem to move through life with a quiet confidence that feels almost timeless? They rise from a chair without hesitation. They remember names from decades ago. They carry their own groceries, laugh easily, and remain curious about the world around them. Meanwhile, someone just a few years younger may already feel trapped by fatigue, weakness, and forgetfulness. The difference often isn't luck alone. It can be found in a handful of everyday habits that most people stop paying attention to long before they realize what they've lost. What if reaching the age of 75 or even 85 isn't the greatest achievement? What if the real achievement is still being able to do 6 surprisingly ordinary things that quietly reveal how well your body and brain have been aging all along? Researchers who study exceptional aging have become increasingly interested in older adults who continue to function at levels far beyond what is typically expected for their age. These individuals are not superheroes. They are not immune to illness. They still experience wrinkles, slower recovery, and the normal changes that come with growing older. Yet they continue to preserve something incredibly valuable: independence. That independence doesn't suddenly disappear overnight. It fades gradually, through hundreds of tiny changes that many people dismiss as just getting older. A little less balance, a little weaker grip, a little more hesitation climbing stairs, a little less confidence leaving the house alone. These small losses quietly accumulate until everyday life becomes much harder than anyone expected. The encouraging news is that the opposite is also true. Small daily behaviors repeated consistently over many years can help preserve the systems that matter most: your muscles, your circulation, your immune defenses, your memory, your balance, even your ability to recover from physical and emotional setbacks. Today, we're going to explore 6 everyday abilities that many remarkably healthy adults between the ages of 75 and 85 still maintain. Each one reflects much more than simple strength or good genetics. Together, they offer a window into how well the body has adapted to aging and, more importantly, what many people can begin protecting starting today. As we move through these 6 signs, don't think of this as a test you either pass or fail. Instead, think of it as a roadmap. You may already recognize several of these habits in yourself. Others may surprise you, and by the time we reach the final one, you'll discover why many longevity researchers believe it may be the most powerful predictor of healthy aging of them all. Let's begin with something almost everyone overlooks, yet it quietly influences nearly every organ in the body every single day. The first ability may seem almost too simple to matter. It doesn't require expensive equipment, a strict diet, or hours in the gym. In fact, many people don't even think about it until they begin feeling tired, dizzy, or mentally foggy. Yet this one habit quietly supports nearly every cell in the body. It is the ability to stay consistently and intentionally hydrated, even when you no longer feel thirsty. Most people assume thirst is a reliable signal. You get thirsty, you drink water, and your body takes care of the rest. That works fairly well during younger adulthood, but after the age of 75, the body's thirst mechanism gradually becomes less sensitive. By the time you actually feel thirsty, you may already be mildly dehydrated. This change doesn't happen because your body suddenly needs less water. In many cases, it happens because the communication between the brain and the body's fluid balance systems becomes less responsive. Hormonal signals change. Kidney function naturally becomes less efficient. Certain medications increase fluid loss. Even common conditions such as diabetes or heart disease can complicate hydration. The result is surprisingly easy to miss. A person may wake up feeling unusually tired. They may stand up and notice a brief wave of dizziness. They may blame aging for afternoon headaches, slower thinking, or constipation without realizing that inadequate hydration is quietly making every one of those problems worse. Researchers have found that even mild dehydration can reduce attention slow reaction time, affect mood, and increase the risk of falls in older adults. Muscles don't contract as efficiently. Blood volume decreases. The heart must work harder to circulate oxygen throughout the body. The brain receives slightly less efficient blood flow. None of these changes may be dramatic on their own, but together, they can make an ordinary day feel far more exhausting than it should. Remarkably healthy adults often develop a different strategy. Instead of waiting for thirst, they create routines. A glass of water after waking up, another with breakfast, one before going outside, one after physical activity, one with medications if appropriate. They remove the need to remember because the habit has already become part of daily life. This simple routine protects much more than comfort. Proper hydration helps regulate body temperature, supports healthy circulation, cushions, joints, assists digestion, transports nutrients, and allows the kidneys to remove waste products more efficiently. It also helps maintain blood pressure, something especially important when standing up after sitting for long periods. But hydration is only part of the picture. Equally important is what accompanies that water. As people age, maintaining healthy electrolyte balance becomes increasingly important, particularly during hot weather, illness, or periods of increased sweating. That doesn't mean everyone needs sports drinks. In fact, many contain more sugar than older adults need. Instead, a balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, soups, dairy products when appropriate, and other nutrient-dense foods often provides much of what the body requires. Individual needs vary depending on medications and medical conditions, which is why personalized advice from a healthcare professional remains essential. Another reason hydration becomes so important is because it protects something many older adults fear: losing most mental clarity. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle while someone slowly turns down the lights in the room. You can still see, but everything becomes a little more difficult. Mild dehydration can create a similar effect inside the brain. Concentration becomes harder. Conversations require more effort. Small details are forgotten more easily. Tasks that once felt automatic suddenly seem mentally draining. People often assume these changes are permanent signs of aging, when in some cases, improving daily hydration can help reduce part of the burden. Of course, water alone cannot prevent dementia or erase memory disorders. Healthy aging is never built on one solution. It is built on dozens of small decisions repeated consistently over many years. And that's exactly what makes exceptionally healthy older adults different. They rarely depend on dramatic changes. Instead, they master ordinary habits before problems become emergencies. Hydration is one of those habits. The second ability follows the same principle, but instead of protecting the body's internal chemistry, it protects something equally precious: the remarkable precision of your hands. Long before someone loses the ability to walk independently, subtle changes often begin in the fingers. Buttoning a shirt becomes frustrating. Opening a jar takes longer. Handwriting slowly changes. Picking up a small coin from the table requires more concentration than before. These tiny challenges may seem insignificant, yet they can reveal how well muscles, nerves, joints, and the brain continue working together. For many exceptional older adults, keeping their hands active becomes an investment in lifelong independence. The healthiest older adults often understand something that many people overlook. Independence is rarely lost all at once. More often, it slips away through dozens of small abilities that quietly become harder each year. One of the earliest clues can appear in a place few people think about: the hands. Take a moment to think about everything your hands accomplish in a single day. They button a shirt, prepare breakfast, unlock the front door, write a note, hold a grandchild's hand, use a phone, carry groceries, and pour a cup of coffee. These actions seem ordinary because your brain muscles, joints, and nerves work together with remarkable precision. That coordination is easy to take for granted until it begins to change. Many people assume weaker hands are simply the result of aging. While some decline is natural, significant losses in grip strength and finger dexterity are not something to ignore. Researchers have found that grip strength is closely associated with overall physical function and can reflect the health of muscles throughout the body. It also depends on healthy nerves, good circulation, and an active brain that continues sending accurate signals to the muscles. Think of your hands as a daily report card for the rest of your body. If opening a jar suddenly feels impossible, if handwriting becomes noticeably shakier, or if picking up small objects becomes frustrating, these changes deserve attention. They may not indicate a serious disease, but they can be early signs that strength, coordination, flexibility, or nerve function need support. The encouraging news is that the hands respond remarkably well to continued use. Many exceptional older adults never stop asking their fingers to solve small challenges. They cook meals from scratch, instead of relying entirely on prepared food. They garden, they knit, they paint, they repair household items, they play cards, assemble puzzles, write letters, or practice a musical instrument. None of these activities feels like exercise, yet every one of them keeps the brain and hands communicating. This relationship between movement and the brain is incredibly important. Every time you perform a precise movement, millions of nerve cells exchange information. The brain predicts the movement, the muscles respond, and the senses immediately report back whether the action was successful. This constant conversation helps preserve coordination and reinforces the neural pathways responsible for fine motor control. When those conversations happen less often, the pathways gradually become less efficient. That is why giving up hobbies can sometimes accelerate physical decline in ways people never expect. Someone who stops woodworking because it feels difficult loses more than a hobby. They lose repeated opportunities to strengthen coordination, concentration planning, and confidence. Someone who stops gardening because kneeling has become uncomfortable may also stop carrying watering cans, gripping tools, stretching their shoulders, and spending time outdoors. One small decision can quietly remove dozens of healthy movements from daily life. Remarkably healthy older adults tend to think differently. Instead of asking, "What can I no longer do?" they ask, "How can I keep doing this safely?" They may use lighter tools. They may sit while preparing food. They may wear supportive gloves while gardening. They may take more frequent breaks. The activity changes, but the habit remains. Another important signal is how easily a person rises from a chair. It sounds almost too ordinary to matter. Yet standing up without using the arms requires strength from the thighs, hips, core muscles, balance systems, and nervous system all at once. Difficulty performing this simple movement can become an early warning sign that muscle mass is declining faster than expected. Imagine two people who are both 80 years old. The first immediately pushes themselves upright, walks confidently across the room, and begins preparing lunch. The second rocks back and forth several times before using both hands to push against the armrests. After standing, they pause to regain balance before taking their first step. Neither person should be judged, but the difference tells an important story. The body depends on muscle long before it depends on medication. Every year, after midlife, adults naturally lose a small amount of muscle if they do nothing to preserve it. This process, known as sarcopenia, develops gradually. Because it happens slowly, many people fail to notice it until climbing stairs becomes exhausting, carrying groceries feels unusually heavy, or recovering from illness takes much longer than it once did. The strongest older adults rarely wait for those warning signs. They continue asking their muscles to work, not to compete, not to impress anyone, but to protect freedom. They understand that every trip up the stairs strengthens more than the legs. Every walk around the neighborhood supports circulation. Every bag of groceries carried safely reminds the muscles that they are still needed. Perhaps most importantly, these individuals do not allow temporary setbacks to become permanent habits. An illness may interrupt their routine. Bad weather may keep them indoors. A sore knee may require adjustments. But once recovery begins, they return to movement as soon as it is safe to do so. They recognize that the body adapts to both activity and inactivity. The longer muscles remain unused, the faster they weaken. This mindset creates a powerful cycle. Movement preserves strength. Strength encourages confidence. Confidence leads to greater activity. Greater activity supports better balance. Healthier bones, improved circulation, and sharper thinking. That cycle can continue well into the 8th and even 9th decade of life. Yet muscles alone cannot explain why some older adults remain so remarkably independent. The next ability may be even more surprising because it has less to do with physical strength and far more to do with something many people gradually stop using without even realizing it: their voice. There is another habit that quietly separates many exceptionally resilient older adults from those who struggle with declining independence. It has nothing to do with running marathons or lifting heavy weights. Instead, it begins with something every person does hundreds of times each day, using their voice. At first, that may sound surprising. What does speaking have to do with healthy aging? Far more than most people realize. Your voice is one of the most complex movements your body performs. Every sentence requires the brain to organize thoughts, retrieve words, coordinate breathing, activate muscles in the chest and throat, control the vocal cords, move the tongue and lips with incredible precision, and monitor sound through hearing. All of this happens in fractions of a second. When these systems continue working together well into the late 70s and 80s, they reveal much more than the ability to hold a conversation. They reflect ongoing communication between the brain muscles, lungs, hearing, and emotional centers. This is one reason many healthy aging specialists encourage older adults to keep talking, reading aloud, singing, and participating in meaningful conversations instead of gradually withdrawing from social life. Silence can become a habit. Sometimes it begins after retirement. Daily conversations with coworkers disappear. Children grow busy with their own families. Close friends move away or pass on. A hearing problem makes restaurants exhausting. Little by little, someone who once talked constantly begins speaking less each week. The consequences extend far beyond loneliness. Conversation challenges the brain in ways few other activities can. Every discussion requires attention, memory, emotional awareness, decision-making, and quick mental flexibility. Even casual storytelling exercises multiple cognitive systems at once. Think about what happens when someone asks you an unexpected question. Your brain searches through decades of memories. It chooses the right words. It organizes events in the correct order. It adjusts your tone depending on who is listening. It monitors facial expressions and body language. It responds to new information in real time. This is an extraordinary workout for the aging brain. The healthiest older adults often continue placing themselves in situations where these mental exercises happen naturally. They meet neighbors for coffee. They volunteer. They attend community events. They join book clubs or faith groups. They call family members instead of relying only on text messages. Some read stories to grandchildren. Others sing in choirs or simply sing along with music while preparing dinner. These activities may appear ordinary, but they continuously strengthen communication pathways that support everyday independence. Even laughter deserves attention. A genuine laugh activates muscles throughout the face, chest, abdomen, and diaphragm. It encourages deeper breathing, reduces stress hormones, and reminds us that emotional health is closely connected to physical health. People who continue finding reasons to laugh often remain more socially connected, and those relationships can become powerful protective factors during aging. Of course not. Everyone finds conversation easy. Hearing loss affects millions of older adults. When conversations become difficult to follow, many people begin avoiding them altogether. Unfortunately, withdrawing from communication can create a cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Less conversation leads to less mental stimulation. Reduced stimulation may lower confidence. Lower confidence leads to even greater isolation. Fortunately, this cycle is not inevitable. Simple steps such as scheduling hearing evaluations, using hearing aids when recommended, choosing quieter environments for conversations, and asking loved ones to speak clearly instead of loudly can make meaningful communication enjoyable again. Healthy aging is rarely about pretending challenges do not exist. It is about adapting before those challenges become barriers. The same principle applies to emotional resilience. Remarkably healthy older adults still experience grief. They still lose friends. They still worry about medical appointments. They still have difficult days. The difference is that they rarely face those moments completely alone. They continue reaching outward instead of turning inward. They ask for help when necessary. They offer encouragement to others. They remain active participants in their families and communities because purpose often grows through connection. Researchers have repeatedly observed that strong social relationships are associated with better physical health, greater emotional well-being, and a lower risk of cognitive decline. While friendships cannot eliminate disease, meaningful relationships provide motivation to stay active, maintain routines, and continue engaging with life. This brings us to another important truth. The healthiest older adults rarely define themselves by their age. They define themselves by their participation. They continue learning. They continue contributing. They continue showing up. Whether that means mentoring a younger neighbor, caring for a garden, helping at a local charity, or simply making a daily phone call to someone who needs encouragement, These actions reinforce a powerful message to the brain. I still matter. That belief influences behavior. People who feel useful are often more willing to exercise, prepare healthy meals, keep medical appointments, and recover after setbacks. Purpose creates momentum, and momentum keeps people moving forward. Yet there is one more habit that consistently appears among many extraordinary older adults. It may be the most overlooked of all because it has nothing to do with physical strength or natural talent. Instead, it begins with a simple decision that many people stop making far too early: the decision to keep learning. The remarkable thing about the human brain is that it never completely loses its ability to adapt. Even in the 8th or ninth decade of life, it continues building new connections, strengthening existing pathways, and responding to new experiences. It may work a little more slowly than it did at 30, but slower does not mean incapable. This is where the sixth habit begins. Exceptionally healthy older adults never stop learning. That does not necessarily mean enrolling in college or memorizing complicated textbooks. It means continuing to challenge the brain in ways that feel meaningful and achievable. Some learn to use a new smartphone instead of avoiding technology altogether. Others begin painting for the first time after retirement. Some decide to learn a new language, practice photography, study local history, or finally master the piano they always wanted to play. Others simply become curious readers, exploring books and documentaries that expand their understanding of the world. The activity itself is less important than the willingness to remain mentally engaged. Think about what happens every time you learn something unfamiliar. Your brain cannot rely entirely on old routines. It must pay attention. It must recognize patterns. It must make mistakes, correct them, and try again. Those repeated challenges encourage communication between different regions of the brain and help maintain cognitive flexibility. In many ways, the brain behaves like a lifelong student. When it is challenged regularly, it adapts. When it is rarely challenged, it becomes increasingly comfortable doing only what it already knows. That is why many longevity experts encourage older adults to occasionally choose the more difficult option. Take a different walking route. Cook a recipe you've never tried before. Read books outside your favorite subjects. Play strategy games that require planning. Learn the names of unfamiliar plants while gardening. Memorize a short poem. Practice using your non-dominant hand for simple tasks. These activities are not magic solutions. They cannot guarantee protection from dementia or other neurological diseases, but they encourage the brain to remain active instead of settling into unnecessary routines. Equally important is the attitude behind these choices. Many people quietly begin telling themselves, "I'm too old to learn that." Those 7 words may become more limiting than age itself. Once a person believes growth is no longer possible, they stop looking for opportunities to improve. They avoid unfamiliar situations. They decline invitations. They let curiosity fade. Healthy older adults tend to replace that belief with a different question. What if I can still learn? That single shift changes everything. Instead of fearing mistakes, they expect them. Instead of feeling embarrassed, they become interested. Instead of protecting themselves from every challenge, they allow themselves to be beginners again. There is something deeply empowering about that mindset. It reminds the brain that life is still unfolding. Learning also becomes more effective when supported by another essential habit that is often underestimated: quality sleep. Many people think sleep is simply a period of rest, but the brain is surprisingly active throughout the night. During healthy sleep, it strengthens important memories, clears away metabolic waste, regulates hormones, and prepares the nervous system for another day of learning and decision-making. Unfortunately, sleep often becomes more fragmented with age. Some older adults wake frequently. Others fall asleep easily but wake long before sunrise. Medical conditions, medications, pain, anxiety, or nighttime bathroom trips can all interfere with restorative sleep. Although occasional poor sleep is common, consistently inadequate, sleep deserves attention. Simple habits may help improve sleep quality: keeping a regular bedtime, getting natural sunlight in the morning, limiting caffeine late in the day, staying physically active, creating a quiet, comfortable sleeping environment, avoiding large meals or excessive alcohol close to bedtime. If sleep problems persist, discussing them with a healthcare professional is important. because conditions such as sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome often go undiagnosed. Healthy aging also depends on taking care of two senses that many people underestimate: hearing and vision. Small declines often happen gradually. You may not notice yourself turning up the television volume. You may avoid driving at night. You may struggle to hear conversations in crowded restaurants, or you may hold books farther away than before. Because these changes happen slowly, many people adapt without realizing how much information they are missing. Yet hearing and vision are not simply conveniences. They help the brain stay connected to the world. Good hearing supports conversation memory and social engagement. Healthy vision supports balance mobility, reading, driving, cooking, and recognizing faces. Regular eye exams and hearing evaluations are not just about preserving sight and sound. They are investments in maintaining independence. Another characteristic shared by many resilient older adults is that they avoid chasing miracle cures. They understand that healthy aging is rarely transformed by a single supplement, one fashionable diet, or a product promising to reverse decades overnight. Instead, they trust consistency over shortcuts. They ask thoughtful questions during medical appointments. They review medications regularly with their healthcare providers. They stay informed without believing every dramatic headline they read online. Most importantly, they recognize that prevention is almost always easier than recovery. The healthiest people between 75 and 85 are not necessarily those who have never faced illness. Many have experienced surgeries, injuries, chronic conditions, or difficult recoveries. What sets them apart is their response. They continue adapting. They continue learning. They continue making small decisions that support tomorrow rather than only today. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Exceptional aging is not about defeating time. It is about working with your body instead of against it, giving it every reasonable opportunity to remain strong, capable, and engaged for as long as possible. That brings us to one final thought, one that may completely change the way you think about growing older. By now, you've probably noticed something important. None of these 6 habits depends on having perfect genes, unlimited energy, or a lifetime free from illness. They are not reserved for a fortunate few. Instead, they reflect a pattern of daily choices that help the body stay adaptable. And adaptability may be one of the greatest advantages anyone can have after the age of 75. Still, there is one question that deserves an honest answer. If these habits are so powerful, why do some people who do everything right still develop serious illnesses? The answer is both simple and reassuring. Healthy habits improve the odds of aging well, but they do not guarantee a perfect outcome. Every human body is influenced by genetics, environmental exposures, medical conditions, infections, injuries, and countless other factors that no one can completely control. That is why it is so important to approach healthy aging with realistic expectations rather than unrealistic promises. Be cautious whenever you hear someone claim they have discovered a miracle cure for aging. If a product promises to reverse dementia in weeks, eliminate every chronic disease naturally, or make you feel 30 years younger overnight, it is probably selling hope instead of evidence. The truth is far less dramatic but much more encouraging. The body responds best to consistency. A balanced diet eaten day after day, muscles challenged several times each week, meaningful conversations that continue throughout the years, regular movement, quality sleep, lifelong learning. These ordinary behaviors may not create overnight transformations, but they often produce remarkable results over time. Another characteristic shared by many exceptionally healthy older adults is that they never stop partnering with their healthcare providers. Some people avoid medical appointments because they are afraid of what they might hear. Others assume every new ache is simply part of getting older. Neither approach serves them well. Small concerns are often easier to manage than large ones. A slight hearing loss addressed early may help preserve communication and social confidence. A vision problem, corrected with new lenses, may reduce the risk of falls. A medication review may uncover side effects that have quietly contributed to dizziness, fatigue, or confusion. A routine blood test may detect changes long before symptoms become obvious. Prevention is rarely exciting. It doesn't make headlines, but it quietly protects independence. One of the smartest habits you can develop is learning to ask questions during medical appointments. Instead of simply accepting instructions, become an active participant in your care. Ask why a medication has been prescribed. Ask whether lifestyle changes might help alongside treatment. Ask about possible interactions between medications. Ask which symptoms should prompt a follow-up visit. The more you understand your health, the more confidently you can make informed decisions. Nutrition deserves the same thoughtful approach. There is no single food that guarantees exceptional aging. No fruit, vegetable, spice, or supplement can replace an overall healthy lifestyle. Instead of searching for one miraculous ingredient, focus on variety. Colorful vegetables, fresh fruit, beans and legumes, whole grains, healthy fats, fish or other quality protein sources when appropriate. Adequate hydration. These foods work together to support the body rather than competing for attention. Equally important is protecting muscle throughout the later decades of life. Many older adults unintentionally eat less protein because their appetite changes or preparing meals becomes more difficult. Over time, this can contribute to muscle loss and slower recovery after illness. Simple adjustments, such as including a quality protein source with each meal when medically appropriate, can help support strength alongside regular physical activity. Of course, every person's nutritional needs are different. Someone living with kidney disease, diabetes, heart failure, or digestive conditions may require individualized guidance. That is why personalized advice from a registered dietitian or healthcare professional is always more valuable than generic advice found on social media. Physical activity also deserves a balanced perspective. You do not have to run marathons. You do not have to lift extremely heavy weights. You simply need to continue moving in ways that are safe, enjoyable, and sustainable. Walking, gardening, swimming, gentle strength training, tai chi, cycling, dancing, stretching. The best exercise is often the one you will actually continue doing. Perhaps the most inspiring lesson from exceptionally healthy older adults is not how fast they walk or how much they can lift. It is their mindset. They understand that aging is not a reason to stop investing in themselves. They continue making tomorrow worth preparing for. They schedule the dental appointment. They refill the water bottle. They take the evening walk. They call an old friend. They read one more chapter. They practice one more song. These decisions may appear insignificant in isolation, but together they become a lifestyle. And lifestyles shape futures. When researchers study people who remain physically and mentally capable well into their 80s and beyond, they rarely find one secret responsible for their success. Instead, they find a lifetime of ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. That realization should be deeply encouraging. Because while none of us can control every challenge life will bring, every one of us can influence the choices we make today. And those choices have the power to change far more than we sometimes believe. In just a moment, let's bring all 6 habits together and discover why growing older may be far more hopeful than society often leads us to think. If you've listened this far, there's something I want you to remember. Being between the ages of 75 and 85 does not mean your best years of living are necessarily behind you. In many ways, they can become some of your most meaningful years. Not because your body never changes, but because you continue adapting with it. Today, we've explored 6 everyday abilities that often appear in older adults who remain remarkably independent. They stay intentionally hydrated instead of waiting until thirst becomes a problem. They continue using their hands to create, build, cook right, and solve everyday challenges. They protect their muscles through regular movement, instead of accepting weakness as inevitable. They keep their voices active by talking, laughing, singing, and staying connected to the people who matter most. They continue learning, remaining curious even when trying something new feels uncomfortable. And they choose consistency over shortcuts, understanding that healthy aging is built one ordinary day at a time. None of these habits promises a perfect future. No one can guarantee freedom from illness, injury, or life's unexpected challenges. But together, these habits create something incredibly valuable: a stronger foundation for independence, resilience, and a higher quality of life. If you can still do most of these things today, take a moment to appreciate them. They are not small accomplishments. They are signs that your body and mind are still working together in remarkable ways. If you've noticed that one or two of these abilities have become more difficult, Don't be discouraged. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Even one positive change made today can become a healthier routine 6 months from now. And 6 months of healthy routines can make a meaningful difference over the years that follow. Growing older is not about proving that time has stood still. It is about continuing to live with purpose, curiosity, and determination, despite the passing of time. Every walk you take, every healthy meal you prepare, every conversation you have, every new skill you attempt, every laugh you share, every glass of water you choose. These are quiet investments in the life you want to continue living. So now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these 6 habits are you still proud to practice every day? Share your answer in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone else who needs hope today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest evidence-informed videos on healthy aging, nutrition, longevity, and living well after 60. Thank you for spending these moments with us. Take good care of yourself. Stay curious, keep moving. And remember, it's never too late to strengthen the habits that help you live not only longer, but better. We'll see you in the next video.